Hello everyone, I hope you've been having a good week. I want to start off by wishing a massive Mazal Tov to Stephen and Roxi Blumgart on Eliana's Bat Mitzvah this week. Eliana, we're sorry that we weren't able to celebrate together in person, but we wish you Mazal Tov on this amazing and wonderful milestone, and looking forward to getting much nachas from you and from all your lovely family. So Mazal Tov, and looking forward to many more simchas together. This week's Sedra is given its name by the very first word of the Sedra. And in fact, the whole Sefer of VaYikra is called VaYikra because VaYikra el Moshe, Hashem called to Moshe. Vayadaber Hashem Elov, he spoke to him, Me'ohel Moed Lema, from the Mishkan, giving him the instructions of the Korbanos, the whole service of Hashem with the sacrifices that took place there in the Mishkan, and later the Beis HaMikdash. But this first pasuk also tells us something about how Hashem spoke to Moshe and the experience of prophecy in general. First of all, VaYikra, Hashem called to Moshe. Every nevuah was preceded by a call, a sense of Hashem reaching out to the prophet, and the prophet, the Novi, responding in turn. And secondly, the nevuah emerges via Dabar Hashem Elov from the Ohel Moed, literally the tent of meeting. In fact, there's a pasuk later that tells us that specifically this came from Mibein HaKeruvim. The Novi, the prophet, experienced the prophecy as coming out of the Mishkan, out of the Oron in particular, Mibein HaKeruvim, between the cherubs, between the Keruvim. And when the first Beis HaMikdash was destroyed and the Oron was lost, those who hadn't yet experienced prophecy were no longer able to start nevuah. And this led to the gradual but eventual cessation of prophecy and extinction of prophets. But why are we taught this message about nevuah in the first pasuk at the beginning of the section of the Torah that deals with korbanos, with sacrifices? And I think the answer lies in actually how difficult it is to relate to korbanos, to sacrifices nowadays. It's perhaps the area of the Torah that we least connect to and is hardest to speak about. But when we look at the Torah, it's clear that somehow korbanos, sacrifices, are central to what the Torah is about. It's right there in the middle of the Torah, sandwiched on either side by a build-up to it and then move onwards. Bereshis about the creation of the world, Shemos about the creation of the Jewish people, and then VaYikra, the peak. Now the Jewish people exist. We've been given this amazing place, the Mishkan, in which we can create the presence of the divine in the world, and we do so through sacrifices, preparing us then for Bamidbar and Devarim, the travel and journey into Eretz Yisrael. So korbanos are very central, even though we struggle to relate to them and connect to them. And the pasuk is telling us, how do we hear the call of Hashem? VaYikra. How can we hear Hashem calling out to us in life? And the answer is through sacrifice, through korbanos, through giving something up. The only way to hear Hashem's voice in creation is by giving up something, by sacrificing something. It's not popular nowadays to talk about sacrifice. We feel we have this intuition that we have to experience everything the world has to offer in order to maximize ourselves, to live life to the fullest, to be truly alive. We have to have everything there is to have. But actually, very often the opposite is true. All achievement, by definition, means investing, putting something in, and only then can we see returns, can we really maximize our potential. Everything has an opportunity cost. If I'm doing A, then by definition I'm not doing B. And if I'm living in C, then by definition I'm not living in D. One always is giving up something of potential in order to have something else of actual. So what do we sacrifice? What do we need to sacrifice if we want to hear the cry of spirituality in our lives? If we want to transcend ourselves, we have to sacrifice our base animalistic instinct within us, our pursuit of pleasure for pleasure's sake, our ego, our selfishness, our laziness, our desire for comfort and convenience over conscience, consistency, and care for others. We have to sacrifice our instinct for passivity, for always following the path of least resistance. That's what we need to sacrifice. The voice of Hashem can only be heard through a carbon, through giving something up. It's heard from the Ohel Moed, the tent of meeting. Where do we meet Hashem? In the place of sacrifice. Where we do sacrifices, where we give something up, That's where we meet Hashem. Many of us, as I said, struggle to relate to Korbanos, and I think one aspect of it is because we struggle to understand the value of sacrifice in its own right. I had an amazing experience a few years back when a member of our community, a member of Ner, happened to mention to me how he loves 2 days of Yom Tov in the middle of the week rather than when they overlap with the Shabbos. And I said to him, well, why is that? You like being off in the middle of the week? And he said, no, actually it's really, really difficult. It's terribly precious at work, and it's a real sacrifice to step out of work when it's a 2-day Yom Tov in the middle of the week. It's really difficult. But he said, that's what I love. He said, that's what I appreciate, because he said there's so little in life that we need to sacrifice nowadays. We have things so relatively easy and so comfortable. And actually the chance, sometimes in my Jewish journey, in my experiences of halacha, I actually need to sacrifice something. That for me is an amazing experience. The opportunities when I walk out of work at 2 o'clock on a Friday afternoon and I feel every eye is following me. That's the sacrifices, he said to me, that I like making. Or Pesach, with the work and the expenses and the minhagim and the customs and everything we do. Not easy, not simple, but we do it because this is our chance to make a sacrifice. We need to learn to save the challenges. And this year has been a year where it has been a little less easy, where we have had to make sacrifices. But we can learn to appreciate the taste of hard work, the taste of sacrifice. Like we learn to appreciate the taste of a good workout when we engage in exercise. And it's tiring and it's exhausting and it's perhaps a little painful and we're giving something up. But we come out feeling more alive rather than less alive because we've learned the acquired taste of sacrifice. The Rishonim, they argue over the meaning behind Korbanos. The Rambam, it's a topic for another day. But all agree that an animal sacrifice represents physicality, our success, our resources, the source of our wealth. And when we bring the sacrifice, we recognize this comes from Hashem. And we recognize that sometimes it's hard to give up, but we have to give something up in order to be able to make the right choices. So I wish all of us well, a wonderful Shabbos, good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom. May we not have to make too many sacrifices, but when called upon to do so, may we always make the right choices. Amen. Be well.